Well, the trial of Pieter Doorewaard and Phillip Schutte, accused of having murdered 15-year-old Matlhomola Moshoeu in Coligny in April last year, has started in the Northwest High Court in Mahikeng today. The teenager's death sparked violent protests in this small rural town. The accused handed themselves over to police a few days later in an attempt to restore order, but said they had apprehended Moshoeu for having allegedly stolen sunflower and that he jumped from the back of their moving buggy as they were taking him to the police station. They were granted bail of 5,000 rand each a few weeks later, an act which again led to houses in the town being torched. The trial kicked off in March this year with a special forensic pathologist testifying that it was unlikely that Moshoeu had jumped from a vehicle as he had no defensive type injuries. Two police officials have also testified, one of them admitting that the police's investigation into Moshoeu's death had been worrisome. A high-ranking police official testified that he had been made aware that there was an alleged eyewitness to the incident and that he had gone to various scenes linked to the alleged crime with him. The court consequently granted an application by the defence for a so-called inspection in loco, whereby this witness, bakkie, made certain pointings out to the court. The state has indicated that it is planning on calling him today to testify and that he is expected to testify and that he is expected to be on the stand until at least Friday. Well, for more on this, we cross to our reporter Ulebeheng in Mahikeng. Ulebeheng, just tell us what's happened, what's the latest with the court case there?
Good afternoon, Nompu. A lot has indeed happened as the court case started just after 10 a.m. this morning. Their courtroom is packed with a lot of media personnel. It is a story of high interest. As you know, we've been following it since April last year. I will mention that the person that is on the stand right now is the state's key witness, who is the only apparent eyewitness in the case. His name is bakkie. As you've just mentioned, he testified that on the early hours of the 20th of April last year at around 7 a.m. in the morning, he was walking to Scotland. Scotland is a township, or an informal settlement rather, where 15-year-old Matlhomola Moshoeu resided with his family. So bakkie testifies that he was walking to Scotland at around 7 o'clock in the morning on the 20th of April. Then at around 10 past 7, he heard a gunshot around the Rietfontein farm in Coligny, on the outskirts of Coligny. He says then he saw accused number 2, who is Phillip Schutte, getting onto a motorcycle, and he says that after that he saw Phillip Schutte having a firearm in his hand, and then he got on the motorcycle. He drove to a bakkie which was nearby, where accused number 1, which is Pieter, Doorewaard, was in the bakkie with a child presumed to be Matlhomola Moshoeu. He says they were with another unidentified man. He says he then heard the child crying out, saying, "Mommy, help me, I am dying." He says after that, Schutte got onto the bakkie and drove off. He says he then saw Schutte with the child, supposedly to be Matlhomola Moshoeu, drive on the bakkie into the sunflower field that Matlhomola had apparently stole sunflower from. He says then after they drove off into the bakkie, they returned later after a couple of minutes, about 3 minutes, back to the scene where the fire had gone off. He says then Schutte got off the bakkie and approached the witness, bakkie himself, and asked him what he had seen. And bakkie said he told Schutte that he hadn't seen anything. When asked why he had said that, he said, quote, "I deemed them to be dangerous because of what I had seen them do to the child." This is after he had said that he had seen them assault the child. He then, apparently Schutte then asked bakkie to get onto the the bakkie, and he was questioned about the plastic bag that he was carrying. Schutte asking him what he had in the plastic bag. He said that it had a couple of beers, and then he was apparently forced onto the motorbike with a pointed firearm at him. He then says they went onto the motorbike, drove to the bakkie, where they found the child on the back of the vehicle lying on his stomach bleeding. He then says they drove off, all of them together on the bakkie, to a house nearby a graveyard and left the motorcycle there and then drove off. At that point, Bakisi then became quite emotional. He could not give his testimony anymore and court then adjourned. Nompu, it had adjourned for about 15 minutes. It's now back, just got back at just about 11:45. We are still to find out more details that has emerged from his testimony, but we do know that he will be on the stand right through until Friday this week. So there is still a lot expected to come out of his testimony. Nompu?
All right, thanks very much. That's our reporter there, Mahikeng just giving us a report on that court case in Mahikeng.